If you're tuning in, I'm Regina Manyara, and you're just in time for the news headlines right here on KBC Channel 1. We're sampling the various dailies that we have in studio, and I have a copy of the Standard, and we're going to start from the back to the front. Now, matters of sports have not taken so much space, or rather precedence, in this particular issue as far as the back page is concerned, with the lead story being football. Harambee Stars defender Joseph Okumu rises from the ashes of depression and is now a transfer target of Arsenal and other European clubs. Well, I'm not going to talk about Arsenal, but yes, good to go there, Joseph Okumu. It's fully fleshed out in this particular daily. We've been talking about the high cost of living, and this has also captured the scribe this morning, with senators now decrying the rising fuel prices. They want extra 15 billion collected by KRA to cushion Kenyans against high cost. And when this proposal comes through, I'm imagining the taxman does not generate its own money, and if this the solution is 15 billion shillings, then it means more taxation to the Kenyans. And if I look at and borrow heavily from what one of our analysts and economist, David Kingo, or CPA David Kingo, said while we were doing the budget analysis, he said that there are very few people within the tax bracket who are carrying the huge burden of a majority who are not paying taxes. So if senators are proposing that the taxman collects an extra 15 billion shillings to cushion Kenyans against high cost, isn't it speaking from one mouth to the other? Anyway, we'll wait and see. Given that KRA surpassed its revenue targets for the first quarter of the financial year to 14.9 billion, after collecting 476 billion between July and September last year against a target of 461.73 billion. But I tend to think this target that had been laid there, remember we were just trying, it was about recovery post-COVID-19. And this must have been, some of the industries that we saw, the hospitality industry taking a harsh beating when it came to matters of COVID and rising in 2021. Maybe that was the issue. Some of the businesses had closed shop, while others are still yet to get back on their feet. There was relative better activity in as far as matters of economy are concerned in 2021 if you compare it to 2020. So that is what is happening there, with the lawmakers saying the extra amount collected by KRA should be utilized to shield Kenyans from the rising cost of living. So how is the question? How would these monies be used to shield you and I from the high cost of living? That's the top story in as far as this particular issue of the Daily Nation is concerned. Let me take you to the front. And the front is about matters politics, with 53 days to go to the August polls, and all eyes are trained on Johnson Sakaja. Why? The decry saga. Now, the Scribe Ops has gone with this particular title, Fall of Sakaja. And the flew, in bold, yeah? And we see a caricature of the senator, the embattled senator there, sleeping on some banana peel. Well, it's satire. Caricatures are usually just a depiction, similar depiction, maybe satirical, ironical, and such, but it's for the eye as well as the mind to relate. Now, Nairobi Super Senator is caught in a race against time over the validity of his Ugandan university degree that could also lock him out of the city governorship race. 2 days of high drama culminated yesterday in the revocation of his papers by the Commission for University Education and his lengthy tirade against President Kenyatta, whom he accused of personally supervising his fall. The drama continued last evening as the tribunal hearing case against him refused to admit the new letter from the Commission for University Education. What way for Sakaja? Now that has been captured as a top story in this particular issue, being the 16th of June 2022. And above there, there are various leaders whose mugshots appear there. Some are familiar, So birds of a feather, will they pass the degree test? Plus, why is judiciary a weak link? That has been fleshed out on page 12 and 13. But to give you a quick summary of those who are, you know, are in a dicey situation in regard to the academic qualification, we have Wavinya Ndeti there, Granton Samboja there, Mythical Inturli, Cleophas Malala, all there appearing on the back shot at the front, at the very top part of this particular paper. And talking about politics, Wajakoya also finds himself on the front page, and this is somewhat wanting to know the other side of this man who is taking, or rather shaking, the political game, if you like. So how the Roots master is changing the political game, even as he's accused of bad messaging. That's a story we're going to be highlighting for you as we proceed with in the headlines. Then NTSA is in court on car theft and logbook frames. In a court filing, the National Transport and Safety Authority is accused of aiding an insurance agent fraudulently acquire a client's car. We've heard these stories before, and this one is before the courts. Which direction it will take, I'm sure it's going to set a precedence going forward in regard to this issue of colluding with unscrupulous insurers there to take away clients' vehicles and such. In recommends matters of national debt, Kenya defaults on 5 billion Aurora and Kimere loans, unable to meet international debt obligations. The government piles on the interest and penalties and shows a new report by the Auditor General. This has been quite a dicey situation. Not only has it been political, but also now it has financial implication. This particular project there that was supposed to, you know, increase the supply of the much needed commodity, and that is water. So in general, that's the front page of the Daily Nation. Mike?
Yes, and on the front page of the Star, the main question is rogue former cop behind robberies in upscale Nairobi? As we have heard over the past week, actually over the past weeks, there have been a series of robberies that have been happening, especially in Rongai. So detectives from the Special Service Unit told the Star that they believe a former police officer allegedly led the attackers in Rongai. The gang began to trail the lady driving home when the house help opened the door, and they forced their way in. Most on that later on. Still on the front page of the Star. Senators are up in arms over skyrocketing fuel prices. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority increased the pump prices of petrol, diesel and kerosene by 9 shillings per litre. The increase pushed the cost of super and diesel to 159.12 shillings and 140 shillings respectively. And kerosene prices also went up by a similar margin and will now retail at 127 shillings. That's on fuel prices. We're still going to see some more of that on the next paper, which is The Standard. The main top story on The Standard is the 1 million votes that could threaten the poll. With less than 2 months to the elections, IEBC bosses are scratching their heads over the transmission of nearly 1 million votes in some 1,200 polling stations that lack network coverage, as Commission Chair Wafula Chebukati and Communications Authority Chief Ezra Chiloba engage in political ping-pong over who should take responsibility. Still on the front page is Johnson Sakaja. Has been the topic of discussion over the past few days. The Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja usually does not hide much about his life, the Standard reports, yet public knowledge gleaned from his past statements. Questions have cropped up now that threaten to collapse his Nairobi governor bid. Still on the front page of the Standard, matters fuel. The Treasury is now getting rid of the fuel subsidy, with Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani arguing that it is benefiting the rich at the expense of the poor. The subsidies are inefficient and also lead to misallocation of resources and crowding out of public spending on productive sectors, said Mr. Yatani. I think it's going to be rough roads ahead for motorists We're going to report on that later on. There's an interesting story here on the Standard, the front page of the Standard. A father and son enrolled for lower primary school. So as people are talking about degrees, people are trying to get into primary school. So the 30-year-old man and his son enrolled at primary school. South Sudanese Isaac Chol had come to school with his son John Majuk. The headmaster Nicholas Kosgei assumed that the father was there to egg his son on. But with the help of a translator, the father of three who came into the country 2 months ago said that he wanted to travel the academic journey alongside his firstborn son. That's an interesting story. What do you think about that, Regina?
Well, I want to remain politically correct. So I will opt to just give a skim through the People Daily. Then we'll come back to that response, right?
Yeah.
When we forget, when the viewers forgotten the question asked, yeah? So the front page of the People Daily, it's all about politics. Let's start off with what happened yesterday during the Azimio One Kenya campaigns that were held in Kitui yesterday, where Azimio flag bearer, none other than Raila Odinga, announced that Governor Charity Ngilu will not be defending her seat, but will serve in government if he takes up office come August 9th. And he consequently went and endorsed Julius Malombe for that particular seat there. So Charity Ngilu takes a back seat, and it is Julius Malombe who was, or rather gets the support from Raila Odinga. Now, state budget cuts hit Ruto. Now are pushed to a corner. Deputy President's campaign suffers setback as reduced allocation to his office forces him to foot his own bills. That is captured here in this particular daily. You can get to read further. Now, talking about, a sigh of relief, it has all eyes have been focused on Johnson Sakaja's gubernatorial bid for Nairobi County there. There's some who are breathing a sigh of relief, and this is Irongo Kangata, where the committee found that Kangata's running mate, Stephen Boro, was a duly registered candidate. So they're out of the woods in as far as Kangata and his running mate are concerned. On the other hand, Polycarp Igathe now can also focus on his campaigns after the tribunal dismissed petitions challenging their eligibility to vie. However, it's a tough road for Sonko and Sakaja. Let's continue skimming through. Now, Deputy President William Ruto has condemned the closure of Keroshe, and he says that he reads malice in the farm, and taxman Aria Wars says the livelihood of people at risk. Well, that's what they have to say in regard to the closure of Keroshe. Keroshe has been making actually, headlines for somewhat controversial issues there, especially where in regard to debts owed, or rather taxes owed to the taxman. Looking at the back page of this particular daily, Matter Sports, back due to public demand. Who are we talking about? We are talking about Olympics champ Jepchirchir was finally included in the marathon team for the World Championship. Back by demand, that's nice. So the Athletics Kenya Senior Vice President Paul Mutwi yesterday told this particular paper that the association had opted to include her to the team that was previously named on April 7th when she was initially omitted, but insisted that the squad would be led by defending champion Ruth Chepngetich. You can get further details regard to what has been making headlines in the sporting arena on our website. Maybe you have a conclusion, Mike?
It's just interesting to see, we're discussing education, especially over the past few days. There's another story here on the Standard. It reads, having a degree requirement for leadership must not be dismissed. That's a statement by the IABC. Okay, so this is following this part of rejections by the IABC for some presidential and governor candidates for lacking or having doubtful university qualifications. So they're saying, okay, the argument from some Kenyans is that leadership is inborn and has nothing to do with formal education, especially the certificate type. But the IABC is saying do not diminish the degree. So it's an interesting conversation to have.
What do you think? What's your opinion?
My opinion is the degree, I think, you know, the critical thinking part, that's where you're going to nurture your critical thinking using that degree or diploma. So having that qualification is essential.
Well,
that's my 2 cents on that.
Because at the end of the day, look at it this way. If we all now went and said, you know what, I do not need my papers to be a certified journalist. I do not need my papers to be a certified accountant. Well, to some level of degree, because when you talk about leadership, it's not necessarily, it's not a profession. Actually, it's supposed to be servant leadership. Leaders are called to serve. It's only in Africa where, you know, politicians, leaders become elites, you know, and they do not embrace, very few embrace servant leadership. But what is the role of, let's say, a member of parliament? Members of parliament fall under the category of legislators. So these are people who are supposed to have some acumen, you know, to know exactly policy, you know, make the laws that govern the land. So you need to have some level of exposure, you know, and education to understand what happens therein. You cannot have a blonde moment, you know.
You cannot afford to do that, exactly.
Yes, and also I think some positions afford you, like some exposure when it comes to education, affords you a bird's eye view as a leader. So when we're here trying to find out, oh, are you qualified, do you have it? And even the Constitution did not err. You know, we had an opportunity to change the Constitution in 2010, and we did so. We under a new dispensation. It did not make an error because we wanted leaders who can articulate the constituents' needs, can come up with laws that, you know, can stand the test of time.
And understand the laws.
Yes, and understand and even debate and, you know, even how to spend that money. So it's good to have an education background, qualified. You need to be qualified. I mean, we all have to qualify to be in professions we're in, you know?
You're given
so if we treat leadership as a profession, then there has to be some degree of prerequisite when it comes to your academic qualifications, and not just say that leaders are born or leaders are chosen by God. When it comes to the nitty-gritty details, I think we need someone who understands.
Actually, the scary part is when leadership becomes a popularity contest, and not, you know, your qualifications or your understanding of the laws and policies becomes scary.
Yeah, because I think if you're talking about the governor is the one who, the governor position affords you, you know, like a bird's view when it comes to the county. So how are these monies spent? In as much as you are going to have technocrats working around you, or rather ensuring that this you deliver what you promised to the people, you need to understand. You need to understand, you know, when you look at a balance sheet, you need to know is this is what is coming in terms of revenue, this is what is going out, these are projects we're running. You cannot afford to have a blonde moment. That's my take home. And also it's encouraging. It's also encouraging for people out here, especially young people who have been decrying, you know, unemployment, yet they have papers. Imagine how demoralizing it would be if we all said, you know what, leaders do not need academic qualifications per se. What does that mean? Where does that leave this person who is a graduate, who is still tamarking, just wanting to have? It's quite demoralizing, even for those people who are in the teaching fraternity, you know, lecturers and all. You know, at least we look at that art, or rather that career, that they've built, they've molded people, that your qualification is worth something, you know? But then how do you forget? I know while we were doing our undergrad, There are some who deferred their classes. Mike, I don't know if you happen to be, you defer for some time for one reason or another. And things happen. Life happens. And you somewhat never get back to finishing your education.
That's an interesting situation.
And I have seen memes going around. Have you seen some?
I have seen some.
People are retrieving their graduation photos.
Exactly.
And saying, just in case, you guys,
I was having a joke about this with my cousin who's an undergrad. I was telling him, if you see a lecturer in the hallway, take a photo.
Oh, please.
If you're, at the notice board, take a photo. Have proof that you were there studying for something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is, Kenyans have a tendency of, picking up something, such a serious issue that could actually mean, that the person in question, and we're talking about Johnson Sakaja's situation, if this does not fall through for him, he will be missing out come the August 9th elections on account of, failing to have the requisite documents, to show that he's qualified to actually run for that office. So this is not just child's play. This is a serious issue.
Yeah.
And Kenyans pick it up, come up with memes, making a joke out of it. Well, let's say the internet is ungoverned and unregulated, and there's so much going on. Remember, this is live, and we welcome your feedback in regard to what we have highlighted for you in as far as news that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Thank you for everyone who has been streaming. We're not done and dusted. We're speaking matters entertainment in not too long, and some of the quick updates that we have in as far as matters politics is that we're going to be keeping tabs on the Azimio la Umoja campaign trail, as well as the Kenya Kwanza campaigns in the course of the day. And also we are going to be having an energy summit in the country to just try and see where we are, and especially matters of renewable energy. I'm Regina Manyara. I leave you in the capable hands of my colleague Mike there to take you through matters entertainment. As we say it here, Thursday is a new Friday. Enjoy your viewing.